So with the NBA Finals wrapping up and the 2026 NBA Draft now almost a week away, I wanted to do one more 2026 NBA mock draft before I release my official mock right before the draft happens. So in today's video, I'll be doing the full first round of the 2026 NBA Draft in my mock and talking about where players could land on draft night. So let's jump into it. And with the number one pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards select AJ Dybantsa from BYU. And even though there has been some noise that Washington has not fully made up its mind yet with this pick, Dybantsa still feels like the most logical one to me. He is 6'9" with elite athletic tools, real positional size, and the type of shot creation upside that teams chase at the top of the draft. He can score from all three levels, get downhill, rise up in the mid-range, and create offense almost whenever he wants. And when you add in the 42-inch max vertical from the combine, the physical profile that Dybantsa brings is exactly what you want from a potential franchise wing. And the swing skills are going to be his three-point shooting and defensive consistency, but with Trae Young and Anthony Davis already in Washington now, Dybantsa would give this team a superstar swing without forcing him to carry everything right away. And with the second pick, the Utah Jazz select Cameron Boozer from Duke, and this has been different than every single one of my mocks so far, but I do think there is a chance that Boozer goes ahead of Peterson. He was one of the most productive freshmen we have seen in recent years, as he helped lead Duke to a 35-win season and won the Naismith Player of the Year award. And at 6'8", nearly 250 pounds, he is already physically ready for the next level. He showed that he can score with power, with his footwork. He also hit threes at a 40% clip and even can function as a point forward when the matchup calls for it. And for Utah, I think the fit is actually better than what most expect. Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. are more perimeter-oriented frontcourt players, while Walker Kessler is there and can protect the rim next to him. And so Boozer, he may not be the flashiest athlete, but his skill, his toughness, and production, and just the overall winning resume that he brings make him a very real franchise building block. And that means with a third pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select Darryn Peterson from Kansas, and this would be a massive win for Memphis if Peterson was able to slide to 3, because he still has the upside of a number 1 overall pick. He is a smooth big guard with elite shot-making flashes, really good positional size, and a 6'11" wingspan that gives him real edge on the defensive end. In high school, he looked like a dynamic on-ball creator who could get downhill at will, make plays for his teammates, and take over games as a scorer. And then at Kansas, he showed he could also thrive off the ball when he could run off movement, knock down jumpers, and fit into a different role than what we were used to. The only real reason he falls here, though, is he missed 11 of 35 games with cramping issues, and teams are going to have to decide how much that matters. Before a Memphis team that could be moving into a post-Ja Morant era, Peterson gives them a high upside guard to build around, with Cedric Howard and Zach Edey also there in the fold. And with the fourth pick, the Chicago Bulls select Caleb Wilson from North Carolina, and Wilson is the kind of prospect that makes sense for a team looking for length, athleticism, and upside, and that's exactly what the Bulls are looking for. He measured 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan at the combine, and added in a 39.5-inch max vertical, which is a ridiculous physical profile for a modern type of forward. When Wilson is flying above the rim, finishing through contact, running the floor, and using his motor defensively, he looks like a future star in the league. And for Chicago, that matters because this team needs more frontcourt upside around Josh Giddey, Matas Buzelis, and last year's draft pick in Noah Asingbe. But the concerns in his game are real, as his defensive rotations can be loose at times, his jumper is still inconsistent from deep, and he is not a self-sufficient scorer yet. But the Bulls played at the 3rd fastest tempo this season, and in that kind of open floor environment, Wilson's athleticism and finishing will thrive. And next, with the 5th pick, the Los Angeles Clippers select Keaton Wagler from Illinois, and this pick is all about balancing talent with fit here in LA. The Clippers already traded for Darius Garland, so taking another small score-first guard could get awkward fast and not make much sense here, so Wagler gives them maybe the cleanest answer here at number 5. He is 6'5", he can play on or off the ball, and his feel for the game is probably his best trait. He is not a burner athletically by any means, but the combine helped him more than people realize, I think. He posted a 36-inch max vertical, which shows there is more functional athleticism than the tape originally suggested from Illinois. But offensively, he can shoot off movement, shoot off the dribble, and create without needing to dominate every possession. And next to Darius Garland and Kawhi Leonard, if he's still there, that would be huge. And Wagler may not have the loudest upside in this guard group, but he might be the safest and cleanest fit for the Clippers here at 5. But now with the 6th pick, the Brooklyn Nets select Darius Acuff from Arkansas, and Brooklyn could go a lot of different directions here, but Acuff gives them something they still need badly, and that's just an alpha in their lineup. The Nets added a lot of young talent in last year's draft, but this roster still does not have a clear face of the franchise, but Acuff has a chance to become that. He is not the biggest guard by any means, and he is not an elite vertical athlete, but he reads the floor like a veteran in the NBA already. He plays with pace, manipulates his defenders, takes care of the ball, and can score from anywhere on the floor. The three-point shooting he showcased at Arkansas is a major selling point, especially with him shooting 44% from deep. He also has a quick trigger with confidence, a slippery handle that allows him to create in big moments, but the biggest question mark is going to be his defense, because at his size, he has to compete enough to stay on the floor, but offensively, Acuff has one of the highest ceilings in this draft. And with the 7th pick, the Sacramento Kings select Mikel Brown Jr. from Louisville, and Sacramento is one of the biggest wildcards that we have in this draft, because if Darius Acuff is off the board at this point, Brown makes a lot of sense. He is one of the most skilled guards in this class. The handle is tight, the passing is advanced, and the shot-making flashes were real at Louisville. His three-point shot is the type of weapon that can come from anywhere at any time, and he has the creativity to finish from difficult angles around the rim. The decision-making, though, and his consistency still need work, but that will come with time, and if Sacramento is truly resetting like it looks like they are, this is not the time to play it safe, and Brown gives them high upside as a lead guard and a high-level offensive engine that they can build around, and even though his numbers at Louisville didn't always match his talent, the pre-draft buzz suggests teams are buying the skill level more than what the box score was. Next, with the 8th pick, the Atlanta Hawks select Kingston Flemings from Houston, and Flemings gives Atlanta a high upside guard who fits the identity of their young athletic perimeter core. He is explosive and probably the most committed defender of the freshman point guard group we have here. Offensively, he can get into the paint with his first step, rise up at the rim, and create his own mid-range looks almost whenever he wants. He also has real passing vision, so this is not just a scoring guard, but the concerns are important because at the combine, he came in a little smaller than I would have liked, and he is very mid-range heavy in a league that values threes and rim pressure, and his efficiency dipped late in the season against better competition. But for Atlanta, the bet is that his athleticism, his effort, his buy-in on the defensive end, and his overall passion for the game will give him a real chance to maximize his upside there with the Hawks. Here with the 9th pick, the Dallas Mavericks select Brayden Burries from Arizona, and this is one of the cleanest player team fits that we have in the lottery to me. There has already been some chatter that Burries could be trying to land in Dallas, and when you look at the roster, it makes sense why. He is a strong, physical two-way guard who can play next to Cooper Flagg for years to come, and Burries can get downhill, score at all three levels. He also rebounds like a wing and defends his position with an NBA-ready frame. And if Kyrie Irving is still part of the short-term plan for the Mavericks, Burries has the ability to slide in as an off guard and bring shooting and defensive versatility there right away. But long-term, he could grow into a more of an on-ball usage type of player as Flagg's primary sidekick. But the one question is whether the shooting leap that we saw at Arizona is fully real, because his track record before that was more uneven, but his frame, his scoring package, and overall production and fit would make this a strong pick for Dallas. And rounding out the top 10 with the 10th pick, the Milwaukee Bucks select Nate Ament from Tennessee, and Ament is definitely one of the most polarizing prospects in this year's draft because the tools that he brings are obvious, but the consistency is not. He is 6'10" with guard-like flashes. He showed he can handle, shoot off the dribble, move the ball, and create mismatches in a way most forwards simply can't, and that is why he had top 5 buzz before the season, because players with that size and skill combination are hard to find. But his freshman year with Tennessee was definitely up and down. He struggled early, he also has to get stronger, and he still has to prove he can impact the game when the shot isn't falling. But for Milwaukee, this is the right type of swing in my opinion, because the Bucks' future is uncertain with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and if they are staring at any kind of reset, Ament gives them immediate upside, and he may need time to develop, but his best version is a walking mismatch at the forward spot in the NBA. And with the 11th pick, the Golden State Warriors select Aday Mara from Michigan, and Mara has real momentum because he is the best true center in this draft class. He is 7'3" without shoes, has an enormous standing reach, and gives you elite rim protection just by being on the floor. But what makes him especially interesting for Golden State is that he is not just a giant. He has good hands, sneaky mobility, vertical spacing ability, and legitimate passing feel. And after 2 disappointing years at UCLA where he was buried on the bench, he decided to transfer to Michigan and became one of the best centers in college basketball while helping the Wolverines win a national title. And that matters for a Warriors team that still wants to play with movement, cutting, and a lot of passing under Steve Kerr. And Mara can operate as a facilitator from the elbows and in the short roll, but the biggest concerns are obviously his shooting and whether teams can drag him into space defensively. But the size and feel for the game are rare, and with Golden State needing a true center, Mara should be a lock here if he's available. Next, with the 12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan, and this pick feels like Oklahoma City does exactly what they do, because they do not need to swing on raw upside here. They need low-cost players who can help them win now, and Lendeborg might be one of the most NBA-ready prospects in this draft class. He is 6'9" with a wingspan over 7'3", and he guarded everyone from forwards to point guards during his time at Michigan. He is strong, versatile, physical, and extremely smart defensively, and on the offensive end, he is also more skilled than a typical role forward. He is an excellent passer, a connective piece, and he improved to 37% from 3. The age is the big question mark with him though, because he will be 24 before playing his first NBA game, but for OKC, I don't think that's a deal breaker because they already have stars, and Lendeborg would give them another versatile plug-and-play piece who can survive playoff basketball. Up next with the 13th pick, the Miami Heat select Labaron Philon from Alabama, and this just feels like a very Miami Heat type of pick here. Philon is tough, skilled, productive, and just put together a massive sophomore season as the focal point of one of the fastest offenses in all of college basketball in the Crimson Tide. He had shooting splits of 50, 40, and 80, carried a huge usage load, and still showed real growth as a facilitator, and that is what makes him extremely interesting to me. He was supposed to be more of a bucket getter, but he became a more complete guard during his sophomore year, and for Miami, the backcourt has uncertainty, and Philon will give them a player who can create shots, defend both guard spots, and plays with a lot of confidence. The defensive tools were more obvious earlier in his college career, and if he can tap back into that while keeping the offensive leap, there is real value here. And if Miami misses on its bigger offseason swings, like trying to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, Philon is the kind of pick that can make that a bit easier to accept. And rounding out the lottery with the 14th pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Karim Lopez from the New Zealand Breakers. And Lopez is one of the more interesting international prospects in this class because the profile fits what NBA teams are always looking for. He is a long, athletic combo forward with some shooting touch, defensive versatility, and a good basketball IQ. He was one of just 4 international prospects invited to the Combine and earned a spot in the NBA draft green room, which tells you how seriously teams are taking him. And for Charlotte, I think the fit is pretty clear. They need front court talent around LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Con Knipple, but they also need to keep roster flexibility, and Lopez can play the 4, space the floor, defend in space, attack the offensive glass, and handle enough to keep the ball moving. And he may not have one elite standout skill yet, but his combination of size, shooting, and defense gives him a strong pathway in the NBA. And now with the 15th pick, the Chicago Bulls select Cameron Carr from Baylor with their second pick in this draft. And if the Bulls already added Caleb Wilson earlier in the lottery, Carr doubles down on the exact type of team they seem to be building. That's length, athleticism, transition speed, and upside. And Carr was one of the biggest winners of the draft combine because he showed the tools, the explosiveness, and the scoring flashes that teams want from a modern wing. After 2 quiet years at Tennessee, he transferred to Baylor this past season and finally broke out as he led the team in scoring, shot nearly 40% from 3 on high volume, and started to look like a legitimate 3-and-D wing with some extra creation upside. And for a Josh Giddey-led roster, that matters because Chicago needs players who can run, finish, shoot, and thrive in space, and Carr checks those boxes. And if the off-the-dribble flashes keep growing like I think they will, this could end up being one of the better value picks in the middle of the first round. Next, with the 16th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select Abuka Okori from Stanford, and after taking Darryn Peterson at number 3, Memphis would come back here and add another guard who brings a totally different skill set. Okori is one of the best driving guards that we have in this class. He is 6'1", but he measured with a 6'7" 3/4 wingspan, and that helped quiet some of the size concerns from the combine. But his game is built on his handle, his pace, change of speed, and the ability to constantly put defenders in rotation. And he went from a player outside the top 100 rankings to leading the ACC in scoring and finishing 7th nationally, which is a wild rise. But the question is whether the scoring translates against bigger NBA defenders, especially because he is not a dynamic above the rim athlete. But in the middle of the first round, I think the creation, rim pressure, and shot making that he brings are all worth betting on here for the Grizzlies. Now with the 17th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Morez Johnson Jr. from Michigan, and this is another classic Thunder pick because Johnson brings physicality, defense, a high motor, and a skill that appears to be trending in the right direction. He was another one of the biggest winners at the draft combine as he measured in at 6'9" barefoot, 250 pounds with a 7'3.5" wingspan. Then he went and added a 39.5-inch max vertical, posted one of the top lane agility times, and made 17 of 25 shots in the 3-point star drill. And that all matters because teams already believed his rebounding, finishing, and defensive versatility would translate, but the shooting is what could push him into lottery consideration. And for Oklahoma City, Johnson would give them another rugged front court piece who can guard, move laterally, finish plays, and bring physicality to a roster that already has plenty of skill. And he may never be a primary offensive option, but his role at the next level is easy to see. Now with the 18th pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Jayden Quaintance from Kentucky, and this would be the definition of a swing pick, but I really like what Quaintance brings. He is probably getting drafted based on what he looked like before the injuries, because when he was healthy as a freshman at Arizona State, the defensive upside was special. At that time, he was 17 years old, blocking everything, moving his feet, covering a lot of ground, and showed instincts that bigs his age were not supposed to have. But then came the knee injury and his ACL, and he decided to transfer to Kentucky, but eventually shut down the season after just 4 games. So now, teams have to decide how much they trust the medicals and how much they believe in the pre-injury version of himself. But offensively, it is still rough, but the defensive side of things were elite, and for Charlotte, this makes sense because they already have perimeter talent, so spending both first-round picks on frontcourt upside could help balance the roster around LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Con Knipple. Next, with the 19th pick, the Toronto Raptors select Christian Anderson from Texas Tech, and Anderson is one of the best pure offensive guards that we have in this draft. He might be the best shooter in the class, and his feel in the pick and roll is extremely advanced. He can shoot off movement, shoot off the bounce, manipulate ball screens, and play with the kind of pace that makes an offense feel organized. And for Toronto, that skill set would matter because the Raptors still need more shooting and more dynamic guard play next to Scottie Barnes and the rest of their core. But the concerns are his physical because Anderson is small, he does not consistently get to the rim, and defensively, he is going to be targeted until he proves he can hold up. But the shooting is real, and the creation feel is real as well, and in this range that gives him a pretty clear NBA pathway, and if his shot translates immediately, he could become one of the better offensive values that we have in this first round. And rounding out the top 20 with the 20th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select Hannes Steinbach from Washington. And Steinbach is the kind of player who may not have star level upside, but he has a lot of ready-made NBA skills. He measured 6'10" and a quarter barefoot with a 7'2" wingspan, and he has the strength, hands, and footwork to produce as an interior scorer and rebounder in the NBA. He also bulked up this past season from 220 pounds to 250, and that matters because the biggest question coming into it was whether he could physically hold up as a true center in the NBA. Offensively, the touch is impressive. He can score on post-ups, finish putbacks, and grab tough offensive rebounds, and has shown flashes as a three-point shooter as well. And if that jumper becomes even more real, the upside absolutely changes. Defensively, though, he's not a dominant shot blocker, and certain matchups can pull him into space, but for San Antonio that has Victor Wembanyama, he could be the perfect fit alongside him. And next with the 21st pick, the Detroit Pistons select Bennett Sturtz from Iowa, and this is a value pick built around skill, reliability, and feel. Sturtz is not going to wow anyone with his size, his speed, or his overall athleticism, and he will be a 23-year-old rookie, but he is one of the most polished point guards in this draft. He can shoot, run an offense, control the tempo, make the right reads, and rarely beats himself. He nearly matched his production from Drake after transferring to the Big Ten with the Iowa Hawkeyes and helped lead them to an Elite Eight run this past season. And that matters because the impact kept translating up at each and every level he played at. And for Detroit, I think the fit is pretty simple because they need more spacing around Cade Cunningham, and they need another ball handler who can organize the offense when Cade is off the floor. And Sturtz is just that. And now he may not have the lottery upside of others, but here in the 20s, his shot making and IQ and consistency should make him a very useful pick for the Pistons. And with the 22nd pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select Chris Sinak Jr. from Houston. And this is a swing on tools because Sinak looks the part of a first-round big. He is 6'10" barefoot, around 240 pounds, with a 7'5" wingspan. He also moves really well for his size, and he has the length to alter shots. Also, he has enough shooting confidence to make teams dream of his upside. And for Philadelphia, the logic is obvious because they need to prioritize finding a center behind Joel Embiid or a forward who could eventually play next to him because Embiid's availability can never be taken for granted. And Sinak answered some questions about his motor and rebounding this year with the Cougars, but he still has some work to do as he struggled with foul trouble, was not always the most efficient, and sometimes wanted to play more on the perimeter than his frame suggests he should. But still, he's a 19-year-old big, and with his type of size, mobility, and shooting flashes, I think he could be a perfect fit in Philadelphia. Next with the 23rd pick, the Atlanta Hawks select Henry Vassar from North Carolina, and Vassar makes a lot of sense for an Atlanta team that could have front court questions this offseason. He is a stretch five with real size, touch, and skill. He can shoot comfortably out to the three-point line, play out of dribble handoffs, set screens, catch lobs, and gives you some rim protection as well. He also made a major production leap in each of his 3 college seasons, which suggests he's still trending upward. The concern, though, is his strength and consistency, because at 227 pounds, he can probably get moved around in the league, and he has not fully established one dominant skill that defines his role. But the fit with Atlanta is interesting to me because he could play behind or beside Onyeka Okongwu and give Jalen Johnson more spacing to attack the rim. And for a late first-round big, Vassar brings a pretty intriguing offensive package that I don't think Atlanta should pass up on. And with the 24th pick, the New York Knicks select Koa Peat from Arizona, and Peat just feels like a Knicks type of player. He is physical, tough, relentless, and built for a team that values grit across every possession. He entered the year with top 10 expectations for this draft, but falling to the back end of the first round might actually be the best thing for him. At Arizona, he was one of their most important players on a Final Four team because of the way he imposed himself physically. He gets to his spots, plays through contact, rebounds, defends, and brings constant pressure around the basket. But The glaring issue is his shooting. He does not space the floor yet, so the team that drafts him has to put him in the right lineup, and with Karl-Anthony Towns as a floor spacing center, New York can make that work. And Peat could also play as a small ball 5 at times in switchable groups, and the more I think about it, I'm starting to love this fit with Koa Peat and the New York Knicks. And with the 25th pick, the Los Angeles Lakers select Dailyn Swain from Texas. And when you are building around Luka Doncic, you need versatile wing defenders who can connect the game offensively. And I think Swain fits that type of idea. He is relentless attacking the rim, creative as a finisher, and active defensively with the tools to become a more switchable wing. He can handle in transition, make plays in ball screens, and also find open teammates when needed. But the problem is similar to Pete's, and it's his jumper. The mechanics have been stiff, the percentages have been bad, and the reluctance to shoot actually goes all the way back to his high school days, and that is why his range on draft night could be extremely wide in my opinion. But there were definitely some real improvements at Texas, and the touch from the line and in the paint gives you at least some reason to believe the shot can eventually develop. But for the Lakers, the wing depth need is real, and Swain's two-way upside could be too valuable to pass up on here at number 25. And with the 26th pick, the Denver Nuggets select Isaiah Evans from Duke, and this is a very specific need pick for the Nuggets. Denver could be facing some movement on the wing, especially if they have to make financial decisions around Peyton Watson, Cameron Johnson, or Christian Brown, and Evans gives them something every Nikola Jokic team can use, and that's shooting. He is a long movement shooter who can fly around screens, space the floor, and punish defenses for overhelping on Jokic, so his role with the Nuggets is easy to picture. He may not be a high-level creator right away, but the growth as a straight-line driver and finisher gives him more upside than just being a stationary shooter in my opinion. He has started to add some pop attacking closeouts, and that matters because Denver's offense creates a lot of open lanes, and Evans is not the most complete prospect in this range by any means, but for a contender that needs floor spacing and off-ball scoring like the Nuggets, he could contribute early. Next, with the 27th pick, the Boston Celtics select Joshua Jefferson from Iowa State. And this is a very Boston type of pick because Jefferson feels like someone who could help a winning team sooner rather than later. He is a 22-year-old senior, so he is not being drafted for some mysterious upside. He is being drafted because he is strong, smart, versatile, and has spent 4 years getting better in college. And at 6'9", he can pass out of the post, make connective reads, guard multiple positions, and just plays with toughness around the basket. The biggest swing skill, though, is going to be his jumper, and the progress we've seen is encouraging, but the sample is still not large enough to fully trust it. But if the jumper is real, he becomes a complete roll forward at the next level. But if not, he is still going to be useful because of his defense, passing, and overall feel for the game. And for Boston, a team that likely wants someone ready to contribute, Jefferson's floor makes a lot of sense near the end of the first round. Now with the 28th pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Sergio De La Reyes from Valencia, and this pick is about looking ahead. Mike Conley is still important for Minnesota in the playoffs, but he is 38, and the Wolves can need another guard who can create, organize, and play next to Anthony Edwards. And De La Reyes is a big playmaking guard with strong feel, a knockdown jumper, and the ability to play within a team structure. And during the 2024-25 season, he had a dislocated shoulder that ended the year for him, and that knocked him off of a lot of draft boards then. But in hindsight, it may have helped him because he came back with a bigger role and stronger production for a high-level EuroLeague team in Valencia. And he has size, passing, shooting, and enough defensive versatility to play multiple spots at the next level, but the question is whether his international skill set will translate cleanly to the NBA. But I think as a secondary creator next to Anthony Edwards, De La Reyes' size and feel could be very appealing for the Timberwolves. Next, with the 29th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Allen Graves from Santa Clara, and Graves is the kind of prospect NBA front offices can talk themselves into because the analytics love him. He is not an elite athlete though, and that was never going to change at the combine, but he has a rare combination of defensive playmaking, passing, offensive rebounding, and shooting touch, and that type of well-rounded impact matters for a Cleveland team that could have wing and forward depth questions coming soon. Keon Ellis and Dean Wade will both be free agents, and Max Strus will be 1 year away. Graves gives them a strong forward, though, who can shoot threes, crash the glass, and disrupt defensively with his active hands. And he may not be a high upside scorer, and there definitely are athletic limitations, but here late in the first round, teams are often looking for players with clear roles, and Graves has one if the shot translates to the next level. And with the 30th and final pick in the first round, the Dallas Mavericks select Meleek Thomas from Arkansas, and this would be a fun way for Dallas to close out the first round because Thomas brings exactly what they could use off their bench, and that's instant offense. The Mavericks already added Brayden Burries in this mock, but they still need more shooting, creation, and perimeter juice, especially if Kyrie Irving is not a part of that long-term future there. And Thomas is definitely not the biggest off guard, and his confidence can sometimes turn into difficult shot selection or loose decision making, but that same confidence is also what makes him so dangerous. He can get hot quickly, shoot from deep range, create separation, and would give a second unit a real scoring punch. And around Cooper Flagg and now Brayden Burries, that type of spacing and shot making definitely has value. And Thomas may not be ready to run an offense full time in the NBA, but as a microwave scorer off the bench who can change the energy of a game, he's a very intriguing late first round pick. But that wraps it up for this mock draft. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts, and do you have any other player team combinations that you really like and want to see? Also, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.